All right, we ran out of time in class to finish up the fifth difficulty. And the fifth difficulty I'd mentioned was just that after we had made all of these changes and created this brand new government called the Constitution, we had to now get the states to ratify it because our government was a government where the states had the power. And so they had to approve of this document. And so that's what we're looking at now. And remember, this will be very hard to do because many of the states are afraid of a strong national government. And the Constitution is definitely going to be stronger than the Articles because we knew that that government was too weak. So the first part of the worksheet we're going to look at is on the back on the true-false section. You can see that here on the screen now. And we're going to look at question number 6 on the true-false. And it says the Constitutional Convention meetings were in secret, and we heard that in the video as well. Now, why were they held in secret? Well, the main reason was, and what you would have added in notes to this page, was that we didn't want any of our founding fathers to be influenced. We didn't want them to feel like they would be pressured into saying a certain thing because people were scared of a strong national government. For instance, in difficulty number 3, we said there were 3 options to pick for a president. Have 0 presidents, 1 president, or 2 presidents. Well, what if while people were debating, George Washington had said, I think we need 1 president? If the media heard that, if people outside the Constitutional Convention heard that, George Washington may have started hearing, hey, this guy wants to be the next king. This guy wants to take over the government. He might have quickly changed his thoughts and said, no, we can have 0 or 2 and completely changed our government. Or maybe when it came time to vote for the president, he wouldn't have been anybody's choice anymore. So we just wanted our founding fathers to not have any kind of pressure on them. You can see here on the sheet that it says we wanted them to have free speech. We wanted them to be able to speak out, say their ideas, brainstorm. And as you know, in classes when teachers say you can brainstorm, they say there is no bad answer, say whatever you want. That's what we wanted our Constitutional Convention delegates to feel. Now, number 7, right below number 6, says because the convention was in secret, we would not know anything that happened there. So luckily for us, one of the delegates kept a very accurate journal of everything that went down, all of the compromises, all of the debates, all of the votes. And number 7 says that was George Washington. Well, that was false. The actual person that kept the journals was, as we flip the page over and look at number 6 on the post-reading quick check, the actual person that kept the journals was James Madison. Because of that, we give him the nickname Father of the Constitution. He did not write the entire Constitution. The Constitution was put together by all of the delegates, but he had a major hand in it, and his journals let us know what happened at this convention and are a big help in understanding our early government. So James Madison is called the Father of the Constitution. So now you can see on this page with number 1 at the top, the Constitution had to be sent to the states to be ratified. We've got it finished. We've got the Great Compromise in there. We've got the 3/5 Compromise. We know how many presidents we're going to have. We've set up for a national court. We've decided we're going to let them tax. All the stuff we've talked about, the corrections have been made. Now we have to get it ratified. To get it ratified, the states had to sign it. And remember, we had to get 9 of the 13 states to sign it because it was not a change to the Articles of Confederation. It was a brand new document, so it just needed to be passed like a normal law. We had to get 9 of the 13 states to approve it for it to become our new government. So now that the Constitution was going to be sent to the states to be ratified, the people of the states had to vote for delegates. And in effect, they were voting for yes or no on the Constitution because a delegate would let you know beforehand if they were going to vote yes or no on the Constitution. So many of the Constitutional Convention delegates, as well as the state delegates, knew this was not the perfect government, but it was the best possible government. And you see that there with number 11. You also heard it in the video. This was not a perfect government, but it was better than the Articles of Confederation, and that's why we needed it. And since the people were going to have to choose the state delegates who would vote on whether this Constitution was ratified or not, they were bombarded with pamphlets, letters from newspapers, speeches that let them know what the Constitution was about, why they should vote yes on it, why they should vote no on it. In effect, when we have elections today and we see commercials on TV, we get pamphlets in our mail, we get flyers, the same thing. And this is why number 12 is true. So when the people in the states had a chance to vote for delegates, there were really 2 sides to choose from. Number 2 on the top in the Reviewing the Facts section says the group that supported the Constitution were called Federalists. The name's really simple. They're Federalist because they supported this document that created a federal government. The reason they supported it mainly didn't have anything to do with whether they thought it was too strong or too weak, any of that. They just knew the Articles of Confederation didn't work and we had to try something new. We had mentioned that the Articles were a lab experiment to let us know what didn't work. These people were the scientists that were like, what's next? So the Federalists wanted to try something new because anything had to be better than what we were living under. To get Americans to support the Federalist viewpoint, 3 Federalists wrote papers called the Federalist Papers that ended up being in newspapers around the country. The 3 Federalists that wrote these papers were James Madison, who we already said was the father of the Constitution, who loved the idea of this new government, but also Alexander Hamilton and John Jay. These 3 men wrote articles that were published every couple days in newspapers around the country where citizens could read why it was going to be okay to have one president, why it was going to be okay to have a Congress that gave more power to the big states in one house and the small states in another, why it was going to be okay to have a Supreme Court that made decisions. They tried to ease everyone's fears of the government being too strong, explaining that the states would still have some powers, and in a way, this began to turn the tide as Americans began to see that this Constitution was the best government for us. Now, the other side of the argument had just as original of a name. The Federalists supported the Constitution and federalism, so the side that did not support the Constitution and did not support federalism were called anti-federalist, as you can see here on number 6 of the Reviewing Facts. The anti-federalist main argument for not supporting the Constitution was that they were afraid the government was still too strong, and even though they knew that a weak government wouldn't work, they just couldn't make themselves support a strong government. Another major reason that the Anti-Federalists did not support the Constitution was because it did not include a Bill of Rights. All of the state government constitutions had Bill of Rights, and our delegates at the Constitutional Convention felt those would be fine and would protect the people. But the Anti-Federalists had lived through a scary, all-powerful government before and said, if we don't have a national Bill of Rights, a national government may always feel that it can do what it wants. And so this was the big debate. But James Madison, father of the Constitution, came to the rescue and said, if I promise to add a Bill of Rights after the Constitution is ratified, will you change your vote from no to yes? The Constitution was ratified in 1788, and a little more than a year later, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified and added on September 25th, 1789. And this is how we solved the 5th difficulty of ratifying the Constitution, through the Federalist Papers explaining the document to citizens across the land, and by James Madison adding a Bill of Rights which eased fears that the government would be too powerful. Our final 2 questions just finish up this assignment. Number 1 on the true-false on the back says only 2 states, North Carolina and Rhode Island, did not approve the Constitution until after it went into effect. That is true. It said in the video that New Hampshire was the 9th state which officially ratified the Constitution. That happened in 1788. The Constitution officially was ratified on June 21st. 2 more states signed after New Hampshire before it was official. And those other 2 states, North Carolina and Rhode Island, joined soon after. Our country was officially the United States of America by 1789. And number 2 on the true-false says we no longer use this Constitution. However, that is false. Our Constitution is the oldest Constitution still in use today. Other countries have been around longer, but no government still uses the same document to define how their government will operate. That's it. Those are the 5 difficulties. Hopefully now you can answer the question from today's assignment, and good luck on our test tomorrow.